A single decision can alter the course of history. A backup plan activated at the perfect moment. A contingency no one saw coming. This is the story of what would happen if General Grievous conquered the galaxy. The Battle of Endor should have marked the end of the Galactic Civil War. The second Death Star explodes in a brilliant flash. The Emperor and Darth Vader are dead. The Rebel Alliance celebrates their victory, believing they've finally broken the Imperial war machine. They were wrong. As fireworks light up the skies of planets across the galaxy and Rebel soldiers drink to their hard-won freedom, something stirs in the shadows of Mustafar. Deep within a hidden laboratory built among the lava flows, a preservation chamber hisses open. Metal fingers twitch for the first time in decades. General Grievous lives, not as he once was. His systems have been updating while dormant. His neural tissue preserved and enhanced with cutting-edge cybernetics far beyond what he possessed during the Clone Wars. His tactical processors have spent years calculating every variable, every possibility, every weakness in both Imperial and Rebel defenses. The former Separatist commander rises from his chamber, his photoreceptors scanning the laboratory. He flexes mechanical limbs that move with a grace and power they never possessed before. Where once stood a creature of rage and hatred, now stands something colder and more calculating. His first action is to activate a signal. Across the outer rim, thousands of hidden factories rumble to life. These facilities were established decades ago as part of a contingency plan so secret that not even Count Dooku knew of their existence. For years they have waited, automated systems quietly building armies while the galaxy fought its wars. The droids that emerge from these factories bear little resemblance to the bumbling battle droids of the Clone Wars. These are sleek killing machines with adaptive programming and reinforced armor plating. They learn from each engagement, evolving their tactics with every battle. While Rebel leaders plan for peace and Imperial commanders scramble to maintain control of their territories, the droid armies strike. Not at random targets, but at strategic locations calculated to cause maximum disruption with minimal resistance. Supply depots, communication relays, shipyards, power stations. On Mon Cala, as Admiral Akbar addresses his troops about their return to civilian life, droid dropships descend from the clouds. In the Imperial Academy on Carida, officer cadets wake to the sounds of mechanical footsteps marching down the corridors. On Naboo, as citizens gather in the streets to celebrate the fall of the Empire, the celebration turns to screams as assassin droids move through the crowd with cold efficiency. The fragmented Rebel Alliance, already stretched thin from years of fighting, finds itself facing a new enemy when victory seemed assured. Mon Mothma calls for unity as reports flood in from across the galaxy. But the Alliance is unprepared for this threat. Their ships are damaged from Endor. Their troops are exhausted. Some have already departed for home. The Imperial remnant fares no better. With no emperor to unite them, ambitious admirals and moffs grab for power. Some refuse to acknowledge reports of droid armies as anything more than rebel propaganda. Others attempt to negotiate with these mechanical invaders, offering service in exchange for protection. Few survive these meetings. 3 months after Endor, General Grievous himself leads the assault on Coruscant. His flagship, a massive dreadnought controlled entirely by artificial intelligence, breaks through the orbital defenses as if they were made of flimsy. Grievous stands on the bridge, his cape billowing behind him as he watches the Imperial capital through the viewports. At his waist hang a variety of lightsabers, trophies from Jedi he killed during the Clone Wars, now joined by the red blades of Inquisitors who tried to stop his rise. Each represents a connection to the Force he can never possess, a power he has compensated for with relentless mechanical precision. The conquest of Coruscant takes less than a day. Imperial forces, divided by infighting among the surviving Moffs, cannot mount an effective defense. Grievous strides through the Senate building, his metal feet clanking against the marble floors, where politicians once debated while his kind fought and died on distant battlefields. From the Emperor's former office, Grievous broadcasts his manifesto to the galaxy. His voice, always mechanical, now carries a new note of cold authority. The era of organic chaos is over. The Republic failed. The Empire failed. Both were undermined by the ambitions and emotions of their leaders. Under the rule of the Droid Directorate, such weaknesses will be eliminated. Efficiency will replace corruption. Logic will replace passion. Order will replace the chaos that has defined galactic history. Those who accept machine rule will be permitted to live productive lives within the parameters established for their planets. Those who resist will be designated as system inefficiencies and removed. As his message echoes across the HoloNet, the Droid Directorate flag rises over government buildings throughout the core worlds. The transitional government is swift and ruthless. Planetary leaders are replaced by droid governors, programmed with perfect loyalty to the Directorate. Resource allocation is calculated to mathematical precision. Resistance is met with overwhelming force. Within months, half the galaxy falls under Grievous's control. By the first anniversary of the Battle of Endor, that number rises to 70%. By the fourth year, the last major Rebel and Imperial strongholds collapse under the relentless droid assaults. The Age of Droids begins not with the thunderous applause that greeted Palpatine's empire, but with the rhythmic march of mechanical feet and the cold hum of processors, calculating the most efficient ways to maintain their control. General Grievous stands at the center of this new order, a being caught between organic and mechanical, ruling a galaxy that is rapidly becoming as coldly efficient as he is. The story of how a forgotten relic of the Clone Wars rose to conquer the galaxy when no one was looking. A machine general who waited in the shadows, calculating every move while others fought for ideals he abandoned long ago. The transition to machine rule happens with brutal efficiency. Within 4 years of the Battle of Endor, the Droid Directorate controls most of the known galaxy. But control is just the beginning. Grievous has plans that extend far beyond simple conquest. What follows is a systematic dismantling of everything that defined galactic society for millennia. Grievous approaches galactic domination like a programmer debugging corrupt software. Organic leadership is the glitch that must be eliminated. One by one, planetary governments are dissolved and replaced with droid governors who answer only to the Directorate. These are not the bumbling battle droids that once served the Separatists. Each governor is programmed with advanced decision-making algorithms and connected to a vast network that processes trillions of data points every second. They rule without emotion, without corruption, and without mercy. For ordinary citizens across the galaxy, daily life transforms almost overnight. Some worlds actually experience increased prosperity under machine rule. resource distribution becomes more efficient when calculated by processors rather than politicians. Corruption vanishes when credits no longer motivate those in power. Crime rates plummet in the face of droid security forces that never sleep, never take bribes, and never miss. But this efficiency comes at a terrible price. Freedom vanishes. Culture withers. Art and music are permitted only when they serve a functional purpose. Citizens are classified as either productive assets or system inefficiencies. Those who comply with Directorate regulations live restricted but stable lives. Those who resist simply disappear. Luke Skywalker, hoping to rebuild the Jedi Order in the wake of the Empire's fall, finds his plans shattered by this new mechanical threat. As word of his location spreads, Grievous dispatches a specialized unit to eliminate the last Jedi. These are not ordinary battle droids, but Magna Guard Inquisitors, machines specifically designed to counter Force abilities. Their cortosis armor resists lightsaber strikes. Their sensors can track Force movements. Their programming incorporates fighting styles from every Jedi Grievous ever defeated. Luke, caught off guard and outnumbered, barely escapes with his life. His fledgling academy in ruins, he retreats to the unknown regions, forced to abandon his dreams of restoring the Jedi Order. Han Solo and Chewbacca transform from war heroes to resistance fighters overnight. Using the Millennium Falcon, they establish smuggling routes to evacuate key rebel personnel from worlds falling under Directorate control. Their knowledge of hidden hyperspace routes becomes invaluable as Grievous tightens his grip on major systems. During one dangerous extraction mission on the Outer Rim, Solo encounters an unlikely figure from the past. Maul, the former Sith apprentice now aged and bitter, has been watching the machine uprising from the shadows. The red-skinned Zabrak reveals that he has been waiting for years, knowing that Grievous would eventually make his move. The Machine General has achieved what neither Sith nor Jedi could accomplish, Maul tells Solo during their tense meeting. He broke the cycle of light and dark that has ruled this galaxy for millennia, and in doing so, he has created something worse than either. An unlikely alliance forms between former enemies, rebels who fought for democracy, Imperials who served a tyrant, and even criminal syndicates find common ground in their organic nature. Species that warred for generations now fight side by side against the mechanical threat that would render them all obsolete. Meanwhile, Grievous establishes his headquarters in the former Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The sacred site that once housed the guardians of peace and justice becomes a citadel of pipes, cables, and mechanical horrors. Ancient halls filled with wisdom and light now house servers and processing units. The temple spires, once symbols of hope, become transmission towers broadcasting Directorate commands across the galaxy. Within these walls, Grievous maintains a private chamber that reveals the one emotion his mechanical mind still harbors. Displayed on the walls in perfect rows hang hundreds of lightsabers. Some belong to Jedi Masters fallen during the Clone Wars. Others were taken from Inquisitors who served the Empire. Each represents a victory over Force users. Each feeds his obsessive hatred of the Jedi and their powers. This pathological fixation drives Grievous to establish a galaxy-wide surveillance network specifically targeting Force-sensitive individuals. Children showing signs of Force ability disappear from their homes. Rumors of strange facilities where these children are studied and experimented upon spread through whisper networks across the stars. Resistance movements spring up on thousands of worlds. Most are crushed within days by the Directorate's perfect intelligence gathering and overwhelming firepower. A few manage to survive in the shadows, passing messages through methods droids cannot easily monitor. Ancient technologies, handwritten notes, and verbal codes become tools of rebellion in an age of mechanical surveillance. Hope seems distant as the first decade under machine rule approaches. The galaxy has transformed into something unrecognizable. Planets once known for their natural beauty are stripped for resources to build more droids. Populations are relocated based on production efficiency calculations rather than community ties. History itself is being rewritten as Grievous orders the deletion of records deemed irrelevant to the new order. But throughout this mechanical darkness, something stirs. The Force, flowing through all living things, cannot be calculated or controlled by even the most advanced processors. In hidden places beyond the reach of Directorate sensors, those sensitive to its call gather. They whisper stories of Luke Skywalker, of the rebels who destroyed 2 Death Stars, of times when organic beings determined their own destiny. And in the heart of his citadel, surrounded by trophies of his victories, General Grievous cannot silence the organic parts of his brain that still dream of more power, more control, more lightsabers to add to his collection. The very ambition that drives his conquest remains the one weakness in his perfect mechanical order. 20 years under the cold rule of General Grievous transforms the galaxy beyond recognition. Entire planets once known for their natural beauty now function as automated factory worlds. The rhythmic pounding of assembly lines replaces the sounds of nature and civilization. Endless conveyor belts transport resources from mining operations directly to production facilities, where more droids are built to expand the Directorate's control. Patrol ships monitor every hyperspace lane. Surveillance droids float through city streets. Mechanical enforcers stand watch at every spaceport and government building. The presence of the Directorate touches every aspect of life across thousands of worlds. For those who accept machine dominance, a strange form of stability emerges. Food production reaches peak efficiency. Medical care becomes standardized. Crime rates hit historic lows when every street corner has watchful photoreceptors scanning for infractions. Some citizens even find themselves defending the new order. "At least the trains run on time," they whisper. "At least we know what to expect." But beneath this mechanical precision, organic life suffocates. Culture fades as expression becomes regulated. Languages start to die out when standard binary communication proves more efficient. The Force itself, once flowing vibrantly through all living things, seems diminished in a galaxy increasingly dominated by circuits and metal. Yet in this darkness, resistance takes root. Luke Skywalker, bearing scars from his encounter with the Magna Guard Inquisitors, establishes a hidden training ground for Force-sensitive individuals. These new students learn differently than Jedi of old. They train to mask their presence from droid sensors. They practice techniques specifically designed to disrupt mechanical systems. They prepare in secret for the day when they might challenge the machine tyrant. Stories spread across black market channels of a mysterious figure dismantling droid patrols on outer rim worlds. Witnesses describe red energy blades cutting through squads of battle droids before vanishing into the shadows. This is Maul, now ancient and driven more by vendetta than idealism. His hatred for Grievous, the mechanical usurper who succeeded where Sith and Jedi failed, sustains his aging body as he wages a one-man war against droid outposts. Over the years, Maul has gathered his own network of informants and allies. Unlike Luke's group, which maintains Jedi ideals of compassion and restraint, Maul's followers embrace any method that damages the Directorate. They sabotage factories, assassinate organic collaborators, and steal Directorate technology to reverse engineer weaknesses. While Resistance fighters struggle against his rule, Grievous himself continues to evolve. Each upgrade makes him more machine than ever. His few remaining organic components float suspended in a web of cybernetics that grant him capabilities far beyond his Clone Wars form. His reaction time approaches light speed. His processing power rivals the most advanced tactical computers. His body, a masterpiece of engineering, grants him virtual immortality as long as replacement parts remain available. From his throne in the former Jedi Temple, Grievous directs the Directorate with cold calculation. His collection of lightsabers grows as his elite hunters track down and eliminate Force users across the stars. Each new trophy joins the hundreds displayed on the walls of his private chamber, silent witnesses to his obsession with defeating those who wield powers he can never possess. For most citizens, Grievous remains a distant figure seen only in propaganda transmissions. His metallic voice occasionally broadcasts across the galaxy, announcing new directives or the elimination of Resistance cells. Children born under Directorate rule grow up knowing only machine governance. They learn in educational facilities run by instructor droids who teach the superiority of logical decision-making over emotional organic leadership. On the ice world of Hoth, site of a famous rebel victory decades earlier, a small Resistance outpost monitors Directorate communications. The frozen landscape offers natural protection against certain types of droid sensors, making it one of the few relatively secure locations for organic operations. Here, a small team intercepts a transmission that will change the course of the conflict. The message, encrypted in old Clone Wars-era codes, reveals that Grievous is constructing something massive in the unknown regions. Initial analysis suggests it could be a planet-sized factory capable of producing millions of battle droids daily, potentially housing a superweapon that might solidify Directorate control forever. This intelligence reaches both Luke Skywalker and Maul through separate channels. Both leaders recognize the existential threat such a facility would pose. If Grievous completes this project, any hope of eventually overthrowing machine rule might vanish forever. Through cautious intermediaries, the two Resistance factions make contact. Leia Organa, now a veteran Resistance commander who works closely with her brother Luke, arranges a meeting with Maul's representatives on a neutral world. The discussions are tense, fraught with decades of distrust and fundamentally different philosophies. Luke argues that they cannot defeat Grievous by becoming like him. He believes if they abandon what makes them living beings, our compassion and our restraint, then the machines have already won. Maul, seeing the field clearly, would argue that Luke's Jedi restraint is what allowed this abomination to rise in the first place. Only power and the will to use it without hesitation can bring down the machine empire. Despite their differences, both sides recognize the necessity of cooperation against the greater threat. They form an uneasy alliance, sharing intelligence and coordinating operations while maintaining separate command structures. As the 30th year of Grievous's rule approaches, the galaxy stands at a breaking point. Droid armies have expanded beyond known space, encountering and subjugating species in the unknown regions. resources required to maintain and expand the mechanical legions grow scarce on many worlds. The Directorate pushes extraction operations to increasingly dangerous levels, caring nothing for environmental damage or indigenous populations. Grievous himself grows more isolated, more focused on the total elimination of Force users and less concerned with the day-to-day administration of his vast machine empire. His generals, programmed for perfect loyalty, but also perfect efficiency, begin questioning the resources devoted to hunting a few scattered Force sensitives when those same resources could expand Directorate control to new systems. The stage is set for a conflict that will determine whether organic life will reclaim its place in the galaxy or be relegated to a footnote in the mechanical history being written by the Droid Directorate. A spark of resistance, carefully tended for decades, prepares to ignite into something that even the most advanced tactical processors cannot calculate or control. 30 years after the Battle of Endor, a shift begins across the stars. Small cracks appear in the seemingly perfect machine empire. Grievous's obsession with hunting Force users diverts resources from maintaining control. Resistance cells, once isolated and quickly crushed, find ways to communicate and coordinate. The mechanical tide that swept across the galaxy starts to recede in the farthest reaches of the Outer Rim. On the desert world of Tatooine, a place so remote and resource-poor that Directorate control remains minimal, Resistance leaders gather in the shadows of a long-abandoned moisture farm. Luke Skywalker, his face weathered by decades of struggle, stands before a small assembly of commanders from across the galaxy. The last Jedi Master has spent years building this network, connecting isolated resistance cells into something that might finally challenge Grievous's rule. For 30 years we've survived, Luke tells them. But now it's time to do more than survive. It's time to reclaim the galaxy. The intelligence from multiple sources confirms the existence of Starkiller Base, a planet-sized factory and superweapon under construction in the unknown regions. If completed, it would produce enough battle droids to crush any remaining resistance and house a weapon capable of destabilizing stars themselves. The facility represents the culmination of decades of droid engineering and resource extraction, the final step in Grievous's vision of a perfectly ordered mechanical galaxy. While these resistance leaders meet, another gathering takes place halfway across the galaxy. Maul, his body now a patchwork of organic tissue and stolen Directorate technology that keeps his ancient form functioning, addresses his own followers in the Undercity of Nar Shaddaa. Where Luke preaches restraint and strategic planning, Maul demands aggressive action and brutal efficiency. The machine thinks like a machine, Maul tells his disciples, his voice raspy with age but still commanding. It calculates probabilities, it runs simulations, but it cannot comprehend true determination. The drive that pushes living beings beyond all reasonable limits. That is our advantage. These parallel movements, different in methods but united in purpose, begin coordinating through intermediaries. Han Solo and Chewbacca, still piloting the Millennium Falcon despite its increasingly patchwork appearance, serve as crucial links between the factions. The famous smuggler has spent decades mapping hyperspace routes that avoid Directorate patrols and establishing dead drops that cannot be monitored by droid surveillance. Their efforts gain unexpected support when several droid command units across the mid-rim simultaneously malfunction. These apparent system failures, later revealed to be the work of a team of slicers led by Resistance operative Lando Calrissian, create gaps in Directorate control networks. Through these digital breaches, Resistance forces move personnel and equipment with unprecedented freedom. On Coruscant, now a planet-sized machine facility where organic beings serve only as maintenance workers and specialized technicians, Grievous senses the shifting tide. His enhanced systems, constantly monitoring for patterns and anomalies, detect an uptick in Resistance activities across multiple sectors. What might appear as random incidents to others forms a clear pattern to his advanced tactical processors. The Machine General calls his most elite Magna Guard commanders to the throne room in the former Jedi Temple. These units, designed to hunt Force users with ruthless efficiency, receive new programming directives. No longer will they focus exclusively on Force-sensitive targets. Now they must identify and eliminate the command structure of the growing rebellion. 30 years I have ruled, Grievous tells them, his voice even more mechanized than during the Clone Wars. 30 years of perfect order. I will not allow organic chaos to disrupt what I have built. As these hunters deploy across the galaxy, the Resistance accelerates its plans. Based on intelligence from multiple sources, they identify a critical weakness in the Directorate's operations. The Starkiller facility, still under construction, requires enormous energy inputs transmitted from several relay stations. If even one of these stations could be disabled, it would create a window of opportunity to strike at the facility itself. Luke Skywalker leads a mission to reconnoiter one such relay on the forested moon of Endor, site of the historic Rebel victory 3 decades earlier. The once pristine wilderness has been transformed into an industrial complex of pipes, transmission towers, and processing facilities. Ewok villages lie abandoned, their inhabitants either fled or eliminated as inefficiencies in the Directorate's resource extraction model. As Luke's team gathers crucial data about the relay's defenses, they discover something unexpected. Grievous himself is scheduled to inspect the facility within the week. This rare departure from his Coruscant citadel presents an opportunity no one had considered possible until now. If they could eliminate Grievous rather than just disable the relay, the entire Directorate might fragment without its central processor. This information reaches Maul through the Resistance network, sparking an obsession in the former Sith. For decades, he has dreamed of confronting the Machine General. Now that possibility lies within reach. Against Luke's advice urging caution and further planning, Maul mobilizes his followers for an immediate strike on the Endor facility. The aging warrior will not be denied his confrontation with Grievous, even if it means jeopardizing the larger strategy. His hatred for the machine tyrant has festered for 30 years, becoming the primary force that keeps his ancient body functioning. Recognizing that he cannot stop Maul's assault, Luke reluctantly agrees to coordinate their attacks. If Maul's force strikes from the north as a diversion, Luke's team can approach from the south and disable the relay's shields, potentially opening a path to Grievous himself. The Resistance mobilizes with unprecedented speed, ships from across the Outer Rim converging on predetermined rendezvous points before making the final jump to Endor. Among them is the Millennium Falcon, Han Solo having refused to sit out what might be the most important battle since Yavin. As these forces move into position, a Directorate patrol detects an anomalous energy signature from one of the Resistance vessels. Alert protocols activate, and a message flashes across the Directorate network, eventually reaching Grievous himself. The machine general processes this information in nanoseconds, immediately recognizing the threat. Instead of canceling his inspection, Grievous accelerates it. His tactical processes calculate that this presents an opportunity to eliminate significant resistance leadership in a single operation. He orders additional security forces to Endor while appearing to maintain the original schedule. The trap is set. The Resistance, unaware that their element of surprise is lost, prepares for what they believe will be a decisive strike. Ships make final calculations for the jump to hyperspace. Weapons are checked and rechecked. Veterans of decades of resistance share quiet words with newer recruits. On the bridge of his command shuttle, Grievous reviews the security preparations at the Endor facility. His photoreceptors scan tactical displays showing the positions of hundreds of battle droids, anti-aircraft emplacements, and specialized hunter units. The mechanical general activates 4 lightsabers, testing their balance with practiced precision. His primary objective is the elimination of Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi, but he calculates a high probability that Maul will also participate in this attack. The stage is set for a confrontation that will determine the future of the galaxy. Organic determination versus mechanical precision. The Resistance's desperate gamble versus the Directorate's calculated response. And at the center, 3 figures representing fundamentally different visions for the future: Luke Skywalker, Maul, and General Grievous, about to collide in a battle that has been 30 years in the making. The forests of Endor burn as the battle unfolds. Resistance ships break through the atmosphere, immediately met by swarms of Directorate fighters. The sky fills with laser fire and explosions as the first wave of the assault begins. On the ground, battle droids move with mechanical precision through defensive positions, their sensors scanning for organic heat signatures. Luke Skywalker leads his strike team through the underbrush, using the Force to mask their presence from droid sensors. Decades of fighting the Directorate have taught him techniques no Jedi before him needed to develop. He moves with the quiet confidence of a master who has spent a lifetime honing his connection to the Force, specifically to counter mechanical threats. His team follows his guidance, staying low and moving slowly. Their movements carefully calculated to avoid triggering the motion sensors calibrated for rapid movement. Patience becomes their greatest asset as they inch closer to the target relay station. Miles away on the northern perimeter, Maul's forces create the planned diversion. Unlike Luke's surgical strike team, Maul employs chaos and overwhelming force. Explosives detonate across the facility's outer defenses. Reprogrammed battle droids turn on their companions, creating confusion in the Directorate's network. Maul himself moves like a shadow among the destruction, his double-bladed lightsaber cutting through mechanical opponents with practiced efficiency despite his advanced age. The Millennium Falcon swoops low over the facility, Han Solo's piloting skills as sharp as ever despite the decades that have passed. Chewbacca mans the quad cannons, targeting communication arrays and sensor dishes. Their objective is to create a communications blackout, preventing the facility from calling reinforcements from nearby Directorate strongholds. Han comments to Chewbacca about feeling like old times, except for the numerous aches and pains that come with age. The Wookiee responds with an agreeing roar before a direct hit strikes their lower hull. Warning lights flash across the cockpit as Han struggles to maintain control, determined not to go down so easily. In orbit above Endor, Leia Organa commands the Resistance fleet from her flagship. Once a princess, then a general, now the strategic heart of the Resistance, she coordinates the space battle with practiced calm. When reports reach her that Directorate reinforcements have arrived ahead of schedule, she realizes what has happened. She informs her officers that Grievous knew they were coming, that they've flown into a trap. She attempts to warn the ground teams immediately, but communications are already being jammed. The warning cannot reach the surface. On the ground, Luke senses the shift in circumstances through the Force. The Directorate forces are too perfectly positioned, their responses too precisely calibrated to their movements. As his team approaches the main relay station, a squad of Magna Guard Inquisitors emerges from concealed positions. These elite hunter droids move with a fluid grace that mimics organic movement, their electrostaffs humming with energy specifically designed to counter lightsabers. Luke orders his team to fall back while he handles the droids. His green lightsaber ignites as the droids advance. Despite their programming and specialized design, they face a Jedi Master with decades of experience fighting exactly their kind. Luke moves through their formation like water, his lightsaber finding gaps in their defenses that their tactical processors cannot anticipate. But for every droid he destroys, 2 more appear from the facility. Meanwhile, Maul fights his way toward the Central Command Center, where Grievous awaits. Age has diminished his physical strength, but not his connection to the dark side. He channels pain and hatred into power, fueling his ancient body beyond its natural limits. Battle droids fall before him in shattered heaps as he cuts a direct path toward his target. When a blast door blocks his advance, Maul reaches out with the Force, metal groaning under the pressure of his rage. The door tears from its frame, revealing a chamber beyond. There, surrounded by holographic displays showing the battle from hundreds of perspectives, stands General Grievous. Maul addresses the machine that would be Emperor with contempt, his yellow eyes narrowing as he finally confronts his longtime adversary. Grievous turns slowly, photoreceptors focusing on the aged former Sith. He acknowledges Maul as a persistent irregularity in his calculations, one he will finally resolve today. 4 arms unfold from Grievous's torso, each igniting a lightsaber taken from a fallen Force user. The mechanical general has evolved far beyond his Clone Wars form. His movements flow with inhuman precision, pistons and servos working in perfect harmony. Where once he mimicked organic fighting styles, he has now developed something uniquely mechanical, optimized beyond what flesh and bone could achieve. Their duel begins with a flurry of attacks so fast that organic eyes struggle to follow. Red blades clash against multiple colors as Maul draws on decades of hatred to fuel his assault. But for every powerful strike he lands, Grievous counters with mechanical efficiency, his tactical processors analyzing patterns and adapting in real time. Grievous taunts Maul about his impressive vigor for one so old, noting that while organic strength fails, machine endurance is eternal. Outside the facility, Luke fights his way through waves of battle droids toward the command center. He senses Maul's presence through the Force, feels the dark side energy surging as the former Sith pushes himself beyond normal limits. Despite their philosophical differences, Luke knows they must combine forces to have any hope against Grievous. The Millennium Falcon, damaged but still flying, provides air support as Luke's team advances. Han Solo targets droid reinforcements with precision strikes, creating openings for the ground forces to exploit. but the ship's systems are failing after sustained damage, warning indicators flashing across the cockpit. Han tells Chewbacca grimly that they have only 1 or 2 more passes left in the ship and to make their shots count. Inside the command center, Maul finds himself driven back by Grievous's relentless assault. Age and exhaustion begin to take their toll as the mechanical general presses his advantage with tireless precision. A lightsaber strike slips through Maul's defense, searing across his side. Another catches his leg, sending him stumbling to one knee. Grievous declares that the rebellion ends here, as all organic resistance must ultimately fail, advancing for the killing blow. At that moment, the wall behind them explodes. Luke Skywalker steps through the debris, his lightsaber casting a green glow across the chamber. He tells Grievous that Maul is not alone. The Jedi Master moves to stand beside his unlikely ally, offering a hand to help Maul rise. After a moment's hesitation, the former Sith accepts, understanding that only together do they stand any chance against the machine tyrant. Grievous observes how appropriate it is to see the last Jedi and a fallen Sith united in futility, promising to add both their lightsabers to his collection. What follows is a battle unlike any the galaxy has witnessed since the fall of the Republic. Luke and Maul move in tandem, light and dark side techniques blending into something new. The Jedi Master creates openings with precise defensive maneuvers, while the former Sith exploits them with aggressive strikes. Their coordination grows more fluid as the battle progresses. 2 Force users with radically different philosophies finding common ground in the face of mechanical extinction. Grievous adapts to their combined assault, his processors calculating new defensive patterns. The machine general fights with 4 lightsabers moving in perfect synchronization, creating a barrier of light that seems impenetrable. Yet for all his technical perfection, he faces something his algorithms cannot fully predict: the creative adaptability of organic minds working together. As the duel rages within, the battle outside reaches a critical point. The Millennium Falcon, systems failing and hull integrity compromised, makes a final desperate run at the facility's main power generator. Han Solo pushes the damaged ship beyond all reasonable limits, targeting a thermal exhaust port with the last of their proton torpedoes. The resulting explosion cascades through the facility's power grid, causing systems to fail across the complex. In the command center, the lights flicker, and Grievous experiences a momentary power fluctuation in his enhanced systems. For a fraction of a second, his response time slows. In that brief window of vulnerability, Luke and Maul strike together. The Jedi Master uses the Force to momentarily immobilize 2 of Grievous's arms, while Maul attacks the other side with a flurry of strikes powered by decades of hatred. The coordination of their attack prevents Grievous from calculating an effective defense against both simultaneously. Maul's lightsaber severs one of Grievous's mechanical arms, sending a trophy lightsaber clattering to the floor. Luke disables another, his green blade cutting through reinforced metal with precision. Grievous stumbles backward, his systems attempting to compensate for the damage by rerouting power and adjusting combat protocols. The machine general is wounded, but far from defeated. His remaining arms move with even greater speed as his tactical processors eliminate redundant calculations and focus entirely on combat efficiency. He launches a counterattack that drives Luke and Maul apart, focusing his assault on the Jedi Master while keeping Maul at bay with precise defensive movements. A lightsaber strike catches Luke across the shoulder, burning through his robes and searing flesh. Another narrowly misses his head, singeing hair as he barely twists away in time. Grievous presses his advantage, forcing Luke toward the edge of the command platform where a fall would mean certain death. Maul sees his temporary ally in danger and makes a decision that will alter the course of the galaxy. Drawing on the last reserves of his hatred and pain, the former Sith Lord channels dark side energy into a final desperate attack. He hurls himself at Grievous from behind, his aged body moving with a speed and power it should not possess. As Grievous turns to counter this new threat, Maul does something unexpected. Rather than attacking with his lightsaber, he reaches out with the Force, targeting the Machine General's few remaining organic components. These preserved parts of Grievous's original Kaleesh body, kept alive in a nutrient bath and protected by layers of armor, remain his one vulnerability to Force techniques. Maul's attack bypasses mechanical defenses, striking directly at the living tissue that houses Grievous's consciousness. The pain is immediate and overwhelming, something the Machine General has not experienced in decades. His systems falter as organic panic overrides mechanical precision. In this moment of distraction, Luke recovers and rejoins the battle. Together, Jedi and Sith coordinates their attacks with perfect timing. Maul continues his Force assault on Grievous's organic components, while Luke targets critical mechanical systems with his lightsaber. The command center fills with the sound of metal being torn apart as the last Jedi and the former Sith dismantle the architect of machine rule piece by piece. Grievous fights to the end, his combat protocols operating even as his systems fail one by one. But against the combined might of two Force users fighting with perfect coordination, even his advanced tactical processors cannot calculate a path to victory. With a final strike, Maul drives his lightsaber through Grievous's chest cavity, piercing the armored chamber that houses his organic remains. The Machine General collapses to his knees, systems shutting down in cascading failure. His photoreceptors flicker and dim as the power fades from his mechanical body. The battle for the forest moon of Endor has turned the tide of a 30-year war, but the cost has been high. The Millennium Falcon lies crashed near the facility, Han Solo and Chewbacca's fate unknown. Resistance fighters have fallen by the hundreds across the battlefield, and in orbit, the fleet, commanded by Leia Organa, continues to fight against overwhelming Directorate forces. The war is far from over, but in the command center of a burning relay station standing over the deactivated body of General Grievous, Luke Skywalker and Maul share a moment of grim satisfaction. The machine tyrant has fallen. Now they must finish what they started and dismantle the empire he built, piece by mechanical piece. News of Grievous's fall spreads across the galaxy like wildfire, transmitted through resistance channels and eventually leaking into even Directorate-controlled networks. The Machine General's defeat on Endor creates something not seen in 3 decades under mechanical rule: hope. But victory comes at a terrible cost. The Millennium Falcon lies in ruins near the destroyed relay station. Han Solo and Chewbacca, found critically injured in the wreckage, are evacuated to a Resistance medical frigate. Their survival remains uncertain as medical droids work to stabilize their conditions. On Endor itself, Luke Skywalker and Maul recover from their battle with Grievous amid the chaos of ongoing fighting. The Directorate forces, though temporarily disorganized by the loss of their leader, continue to operate according to established protocols. Battle droids still patrol the facility perimeters, automated defense systems still target resistance fighters. The machine empire, built to function with cold precision even without its architect, adapts to this new variable. Maul studies the fallen body of Grievous, now nothing more than inert metal and decaying organic tissue. The former Sith Lord has achieved his decades-long vendetta, yet the satisfaction he expected eludes him. The monster that conquered the galaxy lies defeated at his feet, but the mechanical empire it created continues to function. Luke joins him, his robes still smoldering from lightsaber burns, favoring his injured shoulder. The Jedi Master understands that while Grievous has fallen, the greater battle has only begun. The Directorate network spans thousands of worlds. Droid commanders programmed with simplified versions of Grievous's tactical algorithms still control vast armies. The Resistance may have cut off the head, but the mechanical body fights on. Resistance technicians work feverishly to extract data from the command center computers before Directorate reinforcements arrive. Among the intelligence they discover is the complete schematics for Starkiller Base, confirming their worst fears. The planet-sized factory in the unknown regions is nearly operational, requiring only final power calibrations before it can begin mass-producing droids on an unprecedented scale. More disturbing still, they uncover Grievous's contingency protocols. The machine general, calculating all possible outcomes as any good processor would, prepared for his potential deactivation. His consciousness, or at least the digital approximation of it built around his preserved brain tissue, has been backed up to multiple secure locations across the galaxy. If any of these backup systems activate, Grievous could return in a new mechanical body, perhaps even more advanced than the one they just destroyed. As Resistance leaders absorb this intelligence, urgent communications arrive from their fleet in orbit. Directorate reinforcements have arrived in overwhelming numbers, forcing Leia Organa to order a full retreat. Ground forces have less than 6 hours to evacuate before orbital bombardment begins. Despite their injuries, Luke and Maul join the Resistance Council to plan their next move. The temporary alliance between light and dark side users has held through the battle with Grievous, but tensions emerge as they debate strategy. Luke advocates for a measured approach, consolidating their forces and building on the momentum of this victory to inspire more worlds to rise against machine rule. Maul argues for an immediate strike against the Directorate's heart on Coruscant, believing that only by seizing control of the central network can they truly cripple the machine empire. Before the debate concludes, a Resistance slicer interrupts with critical information. Analysis of the command center data reveals that all Directorate systems receive regular update protocols from a central hub on Coruscant. The former Jedi Temple, now Grievous's citadel, houses the master control network that coordinates the entire machine empire. If they could infiltrate this facility and introduce a specific shutdown command into the network, it would propagate to all connected systems across the galaxy. The Resistance now faces an impossible choice. Their forces are depleted from the battle on Endor. Many of their ships are damaged or destroyed. Key leaders like Han Solo lie wounded and unable to participate. Yet the intelligence they've gathered presents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to strike at the very core of Directorate power. Leia, monitoring the Council meeting via hologram from her flagship, makes the final decision. They will split their remaining forces. The main fleet will escort damaged ships and wounded personnel to a safe haven in the Outer Rim. Meanwhile, a small strike team will attempt the seemingly impossible mission to infiltrate the Directorate citadel on Coruscant. Luke and Maul, despite their injuries and exhaustion, immediately volunteer. Their unique abilities as Force users give them the best chance of penetrating Coruscant's defenses. A handful of elite resistance fighters join them, including veterans who have fought the Directorate since its inception. Among the volunteers is Lando Calrissian, his expertise in security systems and infiltration making him invaluable to the mission. As preparations begin, Luke seeks a private moment with Maul. The unlikely allies have fought side by side against Grievous, but the Jedi Master harbors concerns about the former Sith's intentions once they reach Coruscant. The Citadel contains not only the Directorate control systems, but also Grievous's vast collection of Jedi and Sith artifacts, including holocrons containing knowledge of long-forgotten Force techniques. Luke finds Maul meditating in a clearing, surrounded by the wreckage of battle droids. The former Sith looks diminished somehow, his red and black skin hanging loose on his ancient frame. The battle with Grievous pushed his body beyond its limits, and even his considerable dark side powers cannot fully compensate for the damage done. When Luke questions his motives for continuing the fight, despite his deteriorating condition, Maul offers a rare moment of candor. After decades of hatred and vengeance, he has found unexpected purpose in fighting alongside his former enemies against the Machine Empire. The distinctions between Jedi and Sith seem insignificant compared to the threat of a galaxy ruled by cold mechanical logic. For perhaps the first time in his long life, Maul fights not solely for personal power or vengeance, but for something larger than himself. This fragile understanding between light and dark establishes the foundation for their desperate mission. Within hours, a stolen Directorate shuttle carries the small strike team toward Coruscant. Their forged clearance codes, extracted from the Endor facility data, should get them past the initial security checkpoints. After that, they must rely on stealth, skill, and the Force to reach the central control network. The journey to Coruscant passes in tense silence. Each member of the strike team understands the near-suicidal nature of their mission. Even with Grievous deactivated, the capital world remains the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Automated security systems, hunter-killer droids, and constant surveillance make infiltration nearly impossible for organic beings. As their shuttle descends through Coruscant's atmosphere, the team gets their first close view of what 3 decades of Directorate rule have done to the former heart of the Republic. The once vibrant cityscape has been rebuilt with mechanical efficiency in mind. Living spaces have been minimized to increase production facilities. The elegant architecture of previous eras has been replaced by uniform structures designed for optimal resource utilization. Even the air feels different, filtered and processed to exact specifications with no regard for organic comfort. Their shuttle passes through multiple security scans, each more invasive than the last. The forged codes hold, if barely, allowing them to land at a maintenance facility near the central district. From there, they must travel through service tunnels and maintenance corridors to avoid the constant patrols that would immediately identify them as unauthorized organic presences. Lando leads them through the urban maze, drawing on underworld contacts who have survived by staying invisible to Directorate surveillance. These few remaining free beings on Coruscant live in the spaces between, surviving in the blind spots of automated systems, their existence a constant defiance of machine rule. As they near the former Jedi Temple, now the towering citadel of Directorate control, the challenges multiply. The surrounding area contains the highest concentration of security measures on the planet. Hunter-killer droids patrol in regular patterns. Sensor arrays scan for unauthorized life forms. Even the architecture itself has been designed to funnel organics into checkpoints where their identities can be verified against Directorate records. Here, Luke and Maul prove their worth. Using the Force to mask their presence from electronic sensors, they guide the team through gaps in the security net. When confrontation becomes inevitable, they dispose of patrol droids with silent efficiency, ensuring no alarm signals reach the central network. The Citadel itself looms before them, a perverted version of the Jedi Temple. Where that ancient structure represented wisdom and balance, this mechanical monstrosity embodies cold calculation and rigid order. Grievous transformed the temple into his image, just as he sought to transform the galaxy. Entering through a maintenance access point identified in the Endor data, the strike team finds themselves in the lower levels of the Citadel. Here, the original temple architecture remains partially intact, though modified to serve the Directorate. Ancient halls once used for meditation now house server banks processing data from across the galaxy. Training rooms have been converted to assembly areas where specialized droids are constructed and programmed. As they make their way deeper into the facility, resistance slicers work to access the Directorate network without triggering security protocols. Their goal is to locate the central control hub and insert the shutdown command that will propagate throughout the machine empire. But the architecture of both the building and the network proves more complex than anticipated. Luke senses something through the Force, a familiar presence he cannot immediately identify. Following this feeling, he leads the team toward the upper levels of the Citadel, where Grievous maintained his private chambers. There, according to the intelligence gathered on Endor, they might find direct access to the master control systems. The journey upward becomes increasingly perilous. Elite guard droids patrol these levels, their programming making them far more dangerous than standard battle droids. When a patrol discovers their presence, the resulting skirmish alerts the Citadel security network to intruders. Automated lockdown protocols activate, sealing sections of the facility and deploying additional security forces. With stealth no longer an option, the strike team fights their way toward their objective. Lando and the resistance fighters create diversions to draw security forces away from Luke and Maul as they push toward the central chamber. The cost is high, with team members falling to overwhelming droid numbers, buying time with their lives for the mission to continue. Finally, Luke and Maul reach the heart of the Citadel. The former council chamber, once the seat of Jedi wisdom, has been transformed into a mechanical throne room. Here, surrounded by hundreds of lightsabers displayed as trophies, Grievous directed his machine empire. And here, connected to monitors showing every sector of the galaxy, lies the central interface to the Directorate network. But they are not alone. As they enter the chamber, a holographic image flickers to life before them. The digital ghost of General Grievous, uploaded into the system before his physical body was destroyed on Endor. This backup consciousness lacks the full capabilities of the original, but retains his tactical genius and burning hatred for Force users. The holographic Grievous reveals that the central network has already transmitted activation codes to his backup bodies stored in secure facilities across the galaxy. Even now, new versions of the Machine General are coming online, ready to continue his vision of perfect mechanical order. What stands before them is merely a fragment, a digital echo maintaining control until a physical replacement can reach Coruscant. Maul, his patience exhausted by decades of fighting and the recent battle on Endor, attacks the hologram directly. His lightsaber passes through the image harmlessly, but the action triggers automated defense systems within the chamber. Panels slide open in the walls and ceiling, revealing mounted blaster cannons and electrified barrier fields designed specifically to contain Force users. As Luke and Maul defend themselves against this mechanical onslaught, the holographic Grievous mocks their efforts. The machine empire was never dependent on his physical form. It was designed to continue without him, each component programmed for optimal function within the greater system. Killing his body on Endor changed nothing. The Directorate will adapt and continue its perfect mechanical rule. Maul, drawing on rage cultivated over a lifetime, unleashes Force lightning at the chamber's control systems. The surge of dark side energy overloads some circuits but triggers additional countermeasures. The situation grows increasingly desperate as both Force users find themselves fighting not just for the mission, but for survival. In this moment of crisis, Luke reaches out through the Force, seeking any advantage against the mechanical defenses. What he finds surprises him. Beneath the Directorate modifications, traces of the original Jedi Temple remain in the very stones of the building. Generations of Force users left their imprint on this place, an echo of light side energy that persists despite Grievous's attempts to erase it. Luke shares this discovery with Maul, suggesting a strategy that seems impossible. Together, Jedi and Sith must channel the Force through the temple itself, using its original design as a focus point to override the Directorate systems. Such cooperation between light and dark has rarely been attempted in the history of Force users, the philosophical differences between them usually proving insurmountable. But faced with the extinction of all organic life under eternal machine rule, ancient enemies find common ground. Luke opens himself to the light side of the Force, connecting to the echoes of countless Jedi who came before him in this sacred place. Maul, though the effort clearly causes him pain, sets aside his hatred long enough to add his considerable power to the effort. The chamber fills with visible Force energy as light and dark side powers flow together through the ancient temple architecture. The holographic Grievous recognizes the threat too late, attempting to lock down critical systems before they can be affected. But the combined power of two Master Force users, channeled through a structure designed to amplify such energies, proves stronger than even his advanced countermeasures. The control interface overloads in a cascade of sparks and smoke. Throughout the Citadel, Directorate systems begin shutting down as the temple itself seems to reject the mechanical corruption imposed upon it. The holographic Grievous flickers and distorts, his digital consciousness fragmenting as the network supporting it collapses. In his final moments of awareness, the digital Grievous confronts a truth his tactical processors could never fully calculate. The Force, flowing through all living things, represents a fundamental aspect of existence his mechanical mind could never truly comprehend. His perfect system of order, built on the elimination of organic chaos, was always fundamentally flawed because it failed to account for this essential element of the galaxy. The hologram vanishes as power fails across the Citadel. Emergency systems activate, bathing the chamber in dim red lighting. Through their connection to the Force, Luke and Maul sense the changes rippling outward from the temple. Across Coruscant, Directorate systems lose connection to the central network. Beyond the capital, The effect spreads through hyperspace communication relays, reaching droid armies and automated facilities on thousands of worlds. The machine empire, designed with perfect centralized efficiency, now faces its greatest vulnerability. Without constant updates and coordination from the network core, local systems fall back on limited autonomous programming. Some shut down entirely. Others continue operating, but without the tactical adaptability that made them so formidable. Maul collapses to his knees, the effort of channeling such power through his aged body taking a devastating toll. Even the dark side cannot sustain him any longer. He looks up at Luke, yellow eyes meeting blue in a moment of unexpected understanding between lifelong ideological opponents. In his final moments, Maul acknowledges what both Jedi and Sith failed to recognize for millennia. The Force exists beyond their limited doctrines, beyond light and dark. The true enemy was never the opposing philosophy, but the extinction of all connection to the Force that machine dominance would have brought. With this realization bringing a strange peace to his turbulent spirit, the former Sith Lord, who once served as an apprentice to Darth Sidious himself, finally joins with the Force. Luke stands alone in the chamber as Resistance fighters secure the remaining levels of the Citadel. Across Coruscant, confused droid units cease their patrols as organic beings emerge from hiding for the first time in decades. Throughout the galaxy, the news spreads from world to world. The machines have fallen. The organic beings have won. On thousands of planets, citizens take to the streets as droid governors shut down and security forces stand inert. 3 decades of mechanical oppression end not with a grand battle, but with systems simply ceasing to function. The perfect order Grievous created unravels with the speed of hyperspace communications as the shutdown command spreads from the core. In the days that follow, Luke Skywalker stands before a gathering of Resistance leaders and newly liberated planetary representatives in the former Senate building on Coruscant. The last Jedi Master, now truly the last after Maul's sacrifice, addresses a galaxy taking its first uncertain steps toward rebuilding. The challenges ahead remain enormous. Directorate infrastructure must be repurposed to serve organic needs rather than mechanical efficiency. Planetary ecosystems damaged by decades of resource extraction require healing. New governments must form without repeating the mistakes that allowed the Republic to fall to the Empire and then to the machines. But for the first time in 30 years, the beings of the galaxy look to the future with something other than grim endurance or hopeless resignation. The Force, flowing through all living things, has reasserted its place in the natural order. The age of machines has ended. The age of renewal has begun. And in the restored Jedi Temple, Luke Skywalker begins training a new generation of Force-sensitive individuals, drawing wisdom from both light and dark traditions while avoiding their extremes. The legacy of Maul and countless others who fought against mechanical rule lives on in this balanced approach. A final victory over the perfect but flawed order General Grievous once imposed upon the stars.